let's say you have chosen to disclose diagnosis and you're met with, some of you said exclusion, some of you said a whole bunch of horrible words. Or let's say you chose not to disclose diagnosis, your child has showed up, and now the leader's coming up to you and saying, you know what, the one that happens all the time is, I don't think your child is a good fit for this program, right? They're not gonna like directly say to you, like, we don't know how to support your child, which is really what they mean. They're just gonna say, we don't think your child's a good fit for this program, okay? So this is where you have an opportunity to advocate. I really wanna recognize that you will not, like, you can't, this is kind of a situation where sometimes in life you have to pick your battles. So you may not choose to do this in every recreational experience you have with your child, but I really, really want to encourage you to think about doing it sometimes, because it is only with the voices of parents that this will change. I can go on tour all year, every day of the year, talking to coaches. I'll tell you, there's an awful lot of them that are extremely open to hearing this message right now, but really for it to trickle up into the leadership, into the organizations, into those sport institutions, it has to come from parents. So, what are the steps in advocacy? You can start with the direct program leader. So by that I mean you can talk to the skating instructor. You could talk to the coach who's leading your child's soccer program. You could talk to the scout leader in your local chapter. Okay? That's a great start. They may say, oh, I'm going to bring that up with so-and-so, who is their kind of, you know, either their supervisor in the rec system or their kind of regional chapter leader, or like I said, with sport organizations, they have like many layers, like the local sport organization, the provincial, etc. So they may take it to someone up the ladder. In a minute, I'm going to talk about this, but always ask for a follow-up. So if someone says to you, I'm going to bring that up with my recreation manager, or I'm going to bring that up with my program supervisor. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you for hearing my concerns. When will you be able to get back to me with what you've learned, or with what our next steps are here? Okay. My message on this slide is, if you have the energy, go far. So you may find that sometimes, you know, that direct leader can do very little. And sometimes that's just their situation. Like, they actually don't have much power to change things. So you kind of need to take it a step up the ladder to go a little further. And I just wrote on this slide, always think about the end goal. What's the end goal? The end goal is that more kids get included. Specifically your child, but also more broadly, more kids, right? So this is a tiring process, and it takes a lot of energy, and it's always important to keep that big picture in mind. I also find that if you come to the conversation with that type of energy, by that I mean not, you know, oh, swimming instructor, you're a horrible person because you don't know how to do this, or soccer coach, I can't believe you don't know anything about autism, which, by the way, are valid reactions, right? It's valid to feel that way, and it's okay to feel angry. But I find that if in these advocacy conversations, you come to them and you say, look, I'm really concerned that kids like my daughter don't have a place to go in the community. My goal in talking to you is that kids like my daughter get to be active and have fun like other kids. That's pretty hard for someone to just turn around and shut the door on you. But like I said, if you don't get anywhere with the first person you talk to, there are certainly escalating people that you can speak to. So in the world of sport, again, there's a local organization, there's a provincial organization, and then there's a national organization. If you want to be keener, you could contact all of them. And it could be as simple as an email, always asking for a response, right? So I put Vancouver Minor Hockey up. This is not to trash Vancouver Minor Hockey. They've actually taken some amazing steps specifically in terms of training and trying to be more inclusive. So I actually really honor and acknowledge that. But I'm just throwing them up there as an example to help you understand how the ladder works. So say your son or daughter had an experience in Vancouver Minor Hockey. You could certainly contact them directly. So there's a league manager for Vancouver Minor. You could also certainly contact Hockey BC. Hockey BC is a big organization, and Hockey Canada is a big, powerful organization as well. I know that Hockey Canada has recognized some issues around inclusion and they are taking some steps, but really we need a lot of voices to speak up before we'll really start to see the changes happen. If you're looking at the municipal level, so you're in a swimming lesson, a skating lesson, something in the leisure guide didn't go well for your child, see if you can figure out who the program supervisor is, right? So even if you're in a very small community, there's usually one person who's responsible for programming that guide. See if you can talk to that person. If you're in a community that has accessibility services, absolutely contact them because they should definitely be able to provide you some answers. I really encourage those of you who are in a place that's big enough that has a director of recreation to speak directly to that person. Because once you get to that level, you're talking to someone who really has some power to make decisions. So decisions around things like mandating more training, right? Finding the resources to pay for that training. The person you speak to on the ground, that swimming instructor or leader, really has, unfortunately, very little say and control over whether or not all the swimming instructors in that area will get some training on autism. Someone who does have control over that is once you're up to that kind of manager, director level. You can go even further than that and talk to the general manager of recreation in Vancouver, for example. The Parks Board, like you name it, you can climb the ladder. Okay? So what the heck do I say in these conversations? I encourage you to just speak honestly, right? Kind of using the same verbiage that I just mentioned. So I wanted to speak to you because I was very disappointed with an experience I just had with my son or daughter in this program. When I mentioned that my daughter has autism, and there would be some challenges, I was immediately told that she wouldn't be allowed to participate. And to be honest, this sounds to me like a human rights issue. Where is my daughter supposed to go, right? How is it possible that there's nowhere in my community that my daughter can learn this essential life skill? That's powerful stuff. And it's not a blame game. It's not saying you're a horrible person or even you're not doing your job properly. There's no anger behind that. You're speaking from a powerful place of what your experience is and how you're feeling about it, how disappointed you feel, and what you really want for your daughter, right? Always, always, always ask for a response. So let's have this conversation. Okay, and they will always say to you things like, we'll take this into consideration, right? Okay, so when should I expect a follow-up from this? What actions can you take? They might say, oh, I'm going to take this up to my manager. Wonderful. When can you get back to me after you've had that conversation? Okay, always, always ask for a response. Obviously, it's important to recognize the challenges from their perspective. So again, we don't want to come into this playing a blame game and saying, you guys are doing a terrible job, blah, 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 blah. They've got real restrictions on their end as well. So let's take, for example, municipality recreation. They may be very, especially in COVID, tight with funding in terms of, I would love to offer swimming lessons at a smaller ratio, but, we only have so many funds right now. Okay? So recognize that often, like what I say is, people are doing the best they can with what they know, usually. And having said that, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't push for more knowledge, right? If they're doing the best they can with what they know, how can we tell them more? More resources and a more inclusive recreation space. I can honestly say there has never been a better time to advocate than there is now, because the momentum that's happening in sport and recreation, I see it all the time. More and more organizations are really feeling that pressure, for lack of a better word, to be inclusive. Sometimes their funding is actually now tied to being able to demonstrate that they are inclusive. Depends on the organization. But the other thing I'll say is I just think, honestly, our communities are becoming more aware. They're realizing that there's lots of children with autism in the community. They absolutely deserve the chance to participate in these activities. And often people are trying. They're trying the best they can with what they know. And we really just need to keep adding our voices to why this is important, to how it really isn't fair that your child doesn't have an opportunity, et cetera, et cetera. And don't hesitate to speak those higher levels, like I said before. So we have 4 minutes left. And I'm going to end this section on sort of a positive note, actually. We're going to get a little uplifting. But I want you to definitely think about if you have any questions. Definitely put them in the chat box. But let me tell you something happy, okay? I've mentioned Tennis BC a couple of times in this presentation, and I'm just going to give you a couple examples of why I think it's worth it to advocate right now. Because I'm going to show you a couple of champions in the world of sport who, this is mainstream sport. This is not adapted. This is not special sports, nothing like that. This is mainstream sport. So Tennis BC, we started working with Tennis BC in probably 4 or 5 years ago now. It started with a reach out request for training. So can you come and train our coaches to help them better include children with autism? Great, of course we can. So we did that. We have since partnered on some of those training and triad events I explained before. So we've had the opportunity for our members to come and try tennis. We've also had Tennis BC out to a number of our events. So they come out to our summer sports camps and they coach our kids in tennis, which is fabulous. And through interacting with Tennis BC, I had the opportunity to meet this person, Jeannie Rohr, who's one of my favorites. And Jeannie has some personal experience with autism, which is why she gets it. But I just wanted to show you this quick video in Jeannie's words. So Jeannie was an advisor on our module that I mentioned earlier around supporting children with autism. Actually, the module is called Supporting Positive Behavior. We don't talk about autism in it at all because the content is all about strategies coaches can use to support any child who is disengaged, who's feeling anxious or unsure. It's all about just helping more kids be engaged. So let me just show you this quick video in Jeannie's own words about her involvement in this project. After, of course, I switch it appropriately. Video's gonna load.
My name is Jeannie Rohr. I'm the Director of Community Development at Tennis BC. When they created these modules for supporting positive behaviors, I was blown away. It really gives our coaches the tools that they need to be able to include all kids. If you've got that child sitting on the bench and they don't want to participate, what language do I use to engage with that child? If they've got a child that's climbing the fence or wanting to leave the program, how do I work and include that child to make them feel that they can participate? Because a lot of parents, they put their kids into the program thinking, okay, is this another failed attempt? And it's really important to be able to give parents that confidence that yes, your child can be included. They can participate in these programs. The supporting positive behavior modules are just such a great step forward in inclusion.
So that's Jeannie. She was one of our critical advisors on the project. She says all the things I wish every coach would say, and that she acknowledges that this is something coaches need to be able to do. They need to be able to talk to kids who are struggling, figure out how to get them included, really recognize the journey that parents are on in this process and how important it is to try to create those successes for more kids. So here's a picture of us out training the Tennis BC coaches. Super fun day. Here they are out working with our kiddos in our summer sports program. Great stuff. And one other quick story before we go to break. I know we're at 1:30 now. So true story about this guy. This is Coach Noah. He works for a local sport organization, Cliff Avenue Soccer. Coach Noah had a child in his soccer team that he just noticed was having trouble engaging. And he approached the parent, and sure enough, the parent said, yeah, my kid has autism. And his reaction was not, oh, maybe this isn't the right place for you. His reaction was, okay, I want to learn more. So Coach Noah took this experience to his head coach, so the leader of that organization, and that head coach happened to know about that module that Jeannie was just describing. So these are Noah's comments about that module. The module covered all the same things of being clear, concise, and direct. It was 100% applicable to a wide range of kids, not just those with a diagnosis. I recommend it to all the coaches I teach. It's a win-win. The training helps us coach kids on the spectrum, but I also strongly feel the tips from the module help all kids. We want to include everyone into our programs. Okay, they need to be active, inclusive. I assume that means something like, please be inclusive. You can make a difference. I love that. Boy, is that ever true, hey? And I'm sure that many of you know, the difference with those experiences your child has had where they've had that leader that really has noticed them and really has, made that big effort to engage with them. There's actually a lot of research showing just the impact of having one positive adult role model in a child's life and how tremendously important that can be. So yeah, autism is on the rise. Human beings, they still have feelings. Don't force them. Yep, everyone matters, it matters. Great. Awesome. Thank you for those responses. That's excellent. Perfect. So if yours hasn't shown up yet, that's okay. It will show up, and I'll be able to see it when I look at the final results later. And in the interest of time, flipping back over here. So that ends our little section on advocacy for today. I understand that's a very heavy topic, and would really encourage you to, if you're on this journey right now, the more you can build a village for yourself with other parents, other teachers who are going through the same things, who can support you in this, it's going to be tremendously helpful because it can be a really challenging journey. So having someone you can kind of share with is a great support.